Yes. Sorry.
Why?
Okay.
Yeah, keep going.
Okay, intercultural relations are increasingly important in this increasingly globalized world that we live in, especially in terms of business. In the business environment, companies more than ever now need to reach outside their own borders when they look to increase their profit or increase their market share. And it is in those cases where intercultural relations become very important. When dealing with other cultures, when penetrating other cultures, there are certain factors of, for example, perception, communication, ethics, for example, that can define whether this is a good or a bad business relationship. So they can be either beneficial or harmful for the country in question. So in this assessment, we're going to talk about the cultures in Argentina, Brazil, China, Korea, and Norway. And we're going to try to assess the similarities and differences of these countries within a business environment. And we're going to use Hofstede's cultural dimensions for that matter. The cultural dimensions of power distance, individualism, masculinity, uncertainty, avoidance, long-term orientation, and indulgence. The first one is power distance that we're going to talk about. What is power distance, you may be wondering? Power distance refers to the inequality in the degree of power that some people will exert over other people. We all know that in every country, in every culture, there are inequalities in the power, in the distribution of wealth, in the benefits that usually come hand in hand with the power. And this dimension will assess how those inequalities are going to be perceived and are going to be perceived by the general culture, by the general population of a culture, and what is going to be their attitude towards those inequalities. So as we can see here, there is quite a range between all the countries that we are assessing, China being the highest, Norway being the lowest. China has an 80% of power distance, so that is pretty high. It means that in China there is generally a positive attitude from followers towards their leaders. And it's generally accepted that the common population will have a very, very minimal participation in the decision making. This can be related to Confucianism, which is an ancient Chinese philosophy by which there is very clearly outlined roles, social roles in the society, and everybody has a very important position and a very important role that needs to be fulfilled. So if every role is as important, even though some have more powers than others. So this is generally very well accepted in China. Brazil is the next one with 69%. It's also a hierarchical society, in some aspects more than others. And they generally accept very well the fact that people may have more benefits, that people that have more power will also have more benefits than the rest of the people. And in Brazil, this is something that is learned from childhood. People at a very young age learn to respect their parents in terms of obey what your parents say without any room for a different opinion or a different point of view. And this is later translated into a social environment as well, resulting in a 69% in power distance. The next one is Korea with a 60%. Also a hierarchical society where inequalities are generally accepted within the established roles. It also, at a certain level, responds to Confucianism, because Confucianism, as I said, is Chinese, but it did spread around Asia. It did get into Korea, so it has something to do with this high score as well. And as well, social roles are very well respected and encouraged in Korea, both in the social environment and in the more intimate family environment. Children are also taught to respect their elders, and social roles are also very well established within the family. Argentina now goes a little under the middle with a 49%. Argentinians do believe that we deserve equality, that everybody should have a voice and a participation in the decision making. And this could be because the society of Argentina as it is today is a result of a wave of mass migration that we had at the beginning of the 20th century from Europe, from Spain, from Italy, France, whatnot. There was a big wave that made the society that is today. And all these people came in equal conditions. So this idea of equality was generated there. And it remains until today, although the ruling is left for the higher classes. But everybody feels like we should, and everybody wants to have a voice in the decision making. Norway is the lowest with 31%, so it's the winner, I would like to think. Equality in Norway is pretty equal. It's very well distributed, and this means that there is a little bit of hierarchy, there is a little level of hierarchy, but it's always in places where it's absolutely necessary and also consensual. And this is very important, especially in business levels, because in business it means that people will more often be given advice and feedback instead of orders. They will be encouraged and empowered through coaching, and equality is reinforced in all levels, like dress codes, for example, or the way people treat each other. Communication in Norway between followers and leaders or managers and employees, it goes both ways. So everybody respects that everybody else, regardless of their position, can have experience and knowledge. So that's our lowest score for today. That being said, if we were to generate any business relationship amongst these countries towards Norway, it being the lowest score, there's a few things that we could consider. For example, in the case of China and Korea, being the ones with the highest levels, they treat each other very differently. The roles of everybody are very well established, and they refer to each other by title. So that is emphasized all the time, and something like that brought into a country like Norway, where people treat each other by name, could generate a clash, could generate a communication issue, and could generate a barrier as well that could directly ruin a business relationship. When someone calls someone by the first name when that other person is expecting to be called by their title. So maybe countries like Brazil and Argentina have a little more in common this way. Brazil does have a little bit of a higher score in power distance, but the way people treat each other is more casual. So according to the way Brazilians and Argentinians deal with business meetings, for example, we could use the small talk as a tool to do business with Norway, because that way we can approach the communication from in a less formal manner, and that way we can have a more immediate assessment of the environment and the situation in this new culture. And in hand with that, the dress code as well should be brought down to a more casual level than another one that would emphasize the differences in power and hierarchy. I'm also going to speak about uncertainty avoidance today. I'm not Hugo, as you can see, but he's not here. So uncertainty avoidance refers to how society deals with the unpredictability of the future and how or whether to control that future. So it talks about how people in a certain society culture may be threatened by this uncertainty and what they decide to do in order to diminish that threat. Argentina, Korea, and Brazil, as you can see, are quite high in terms of uncertainty avoidance. So what we're going to find in response to these high scores is that both three countries have a very strong need for rules and very strict legal systems, because that is the structure that is going to give them like a more clear view of what's in the future. They're going to, it's kind of a guide into that. And all these things are reinforced and they translate into, for example, these three countries are going to be quite strict in terms of punctuality, in terms of job security is a very big thing for these countries as well in terms of motivation. Norway is right in the middle, so it doesn't really seem to show any preference towards one side or the other. And China is significantly lower than all the others with a 30%. So we will see that Chinese are going to be the most comfortable with ambiguity, and they're going to be more adaptable and flexible. So in terms of uncertainty avoidance, if we were to put it in a business scenario, in Norway, with Norway being neutral, I was going to say quite neutral, but it's actually just neutral about this, we feel like maybe any country has the same chance of having a successful business relationship in these terms. So in order for everybody to be on the same page, we think that a good, clear code of conduct and a good system of rules and a good legal system can actually help to sustain those relationships in a way that everybody knows what's what. So that's me for today. I'm going to give the room to Raquel. Thank you very much.
Hi. I'm talking about individualism and collectivism. And what does it mean? Individualism, as the name itself says, they're looking for individual, for the person, for the person as unique and as special. Another point is they usually look for the I, not for the we. Collectivism is another side. They looking more for the group and for the nation or for the community. Also, decision making is collective. No, in the case of individualism, they looking more for the needs, special needs of everybody. If you will see Korea and China, they are collectivist countries, and despite they looking for the group, the difference between them is China has subgroups, and Korea usually looking for the nation or the big community. They have no favoritism. In China, we can see some favoritism in specific groups. Brazil and Argentina, they are in the middle point. Argentina becomes more individualist because its historical context, they have to become stronger, and that's why they are more individualist. Brazil respects a hierarchy and look for mentors. Because they respect the hierarchy, they see themselves in this kind of hierarchy, and they looking for mentors and help them to grow and make the next steps in their lives. Norway, in the opposite side, they encourage personal opinions and beliefs. So every single person has active voice and have to be respected. To do business in Norway, two things have to be considered. One is personal space and attention to cultural communication. Personal space across the line between family or personal and work life. Usually Norwegian, they are more. They can separate the life, and if we talk about Brazilian or Argentine in the meetings, we are more open and we want to talk more about family or personal life to understand better the other side. And in Norway, we cannot say that. We have to be different. So cultural communication have to be considered, and it's important. And personal space as well. Another aspect is masculinity and femininity. When the country is masculinity, the country is looking for competitiveness, achievement, and success. And another side, femininity is quality of life. Another point, interesting point, is loneliness is not admirable. They want to make the group happy, everybody happy, and they looking for this environment that everybody can be successful and have the happiness life. If you see the graph here, we have China. China as China has a masculinity. China is a masculinity country, and they has more focus in status and family welfare through business. So they can spend more time in the business at work than with their families. In opposite side, again, we have Norway with 8%. They are supportive and everyone has active voice. So, Norway country encourage them to be themselves, and usually they are really supportive. In the middle point, Brazil and Argentina, they looking for a balance between success and enjoy their life. As a recommendation, important point is a perception, and when we see the judgments, because when we see a new culture, usually we have some perception, and it can bring judgments. And when we are doing business, it's important you understand the culture, the another culture, and try to be neutral to don't judge the other one. For example, Norway, because we have two extremes here, two extremes in Norway and China. Just want to give you an example. Maybe in China, Norway can see China as Norway. Chinese can see Norway as a no respect, because if you are in the meeting, you have everybody there in Norway, and everybody has a voice. Everybody can say something. Chinese can see that way as an unrespect, because if the owner or CEO Chinese elderly guy is speaking and have some make decision, another one, it's hard to raise the hands and say no, I don't agree with that, because they believe that the group have to be happy with the decision. So it's hard for you judge, and it's important you have the perception and try to be neutral in that point. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Hayu Kim. I'm not a Hugo. I'm going to talking about short-term orientation and also restraint and indulgent society. So let's start. What does it mean? Long-term orientation is take a pragmatic approach, and it is encourage efforts in modern education to prepare for the future. And on the other hand, short-term orientation is prefer maintaining time-honored traditions and norms, and it is preferred to see social change as a doubt. As you can see graph, the Korea is highest one, Argentina is lowest. Highest mean is that long-term orientation, and lower means that short-term orientation. So Korea, China is very similar. They have long-term direction in terms of steady market share, growth priority rather than profit. Therefore, people live in practical. For example, Korea, China is very they are market share growth, so their development is really higher and then quickly. But on the other hand, Brazil and Norway, Argentina is lower score. Both countries are focused on high respect for traditions, smart tend for the future, and achieving quick results. So when you're doing business in Norway, recommend maintain and respect tradition like from Norway and Argentina and Brazil, and also they have to make practical prepare for the future from China, Korea, like China and Korea. So that was long and short-term orientation. Let's look at indulgence and restraints society. What does it mean indulgence? Is grow flexibly in place with less control, and they are people enjoy life and as basic human drives such as opinions or decision. On the other hand, restraint is very strictly control demands and pleasures, and this culture society, social norms should be strictly observed and considered, and this focus more on duty than pleasures. So let's look at the graph. The lowest is China and the highest is Argentina. And the highest meaning is indulgence and lower meaning is restraint. So as you can see, China and Korea is almost similar. So they are perception on having to strictly follow social norms. And Norway, Brazil is midpoint, but they are still considered about indulgence and obligation is considered equally important. So it is more close indulgence. So Argentina is relaxing and free time are considered valuable, whereas for effort and the goal is egocentric. So when they have overtime, they are more considered about reasonable rewards. So recommendation is time, reward, informer. When you're doing in Norway, in general, comfortable working attitude should have casual, and also good idea to focus on importance of balancing family life, working time, and reward. I want to explain about cultural influence perception. As you can see, China, Korea, Brazil, Argentina, Norway is almost a similar time. But actually, China, Korea is overtime condition is very common. But conversely, Brazil, Argentina, Norway is very rare over time. So it means that China, Korea is families are important, but duties and norms at work are very essential. But in conversely, as you can see here, worker is the three countries are also important for work, but life balance and is more essential. So what is conclusion? So to sum up, we are covered Korea, Brazil, Argentina, Norway. There are similarities and difference between countries in 6 aspects. The above research shows that help us to understand local business and manners for Norway. So when working in Norway, it is important to recognize and understand the culture and its differences. Intercultural problems can arise when working with people from other culture because different culture have different preference. So it is important to be flexible in the intercultural community. So this is a reference list. So thank you for your attention. Do you have any question?
Okay, we have 5 minutes for a question.
Shall I keep recording the questions?
Yes. Anybody? Before I ask my own.
I'm a bit busy with recording, so.
When it comes to Norway, Norway is the chosen country, right? So when it comes to Norway, what should be the first thing a businessman or a company that would like to expand business in such country? What is your recommendation? First things first, what they need to do or what they need to prepare?
Yeah. I think another country have to be really prepared, like learning the business, understand very well, because Norway guys, they do the homework before they went to the meeting. They go to the meeting. So the first thing, you have to be prepared. If you are going to sell some product or if you are going to make a negotiation, you have to understand every single word that you're gonna say, because they will be prepared.
And is English the acknowledged or being used in Norway? Because I think Norway has their own
Norwegian.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But actually, when the business, they are using English.
English.
Yes.
Depending on the country that's coming to Norway, English is usually the common, with all these countries, they have usually English as a second language. Most people know how to speak it, so that would be a good meeting point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, language will not be an issue in Norway because their literacy rate is very high. Any other question from the group? Okay. As a group, what is your personal takeaway from whatever findings you had after researching? Personally. After learning about the different dimensions based on Hofstede, comparing and contrasting similarities, differences between and among Norway, Korea, China, Brazil, and Argentina, what is your personal takeaway? Meaning, what is left with you after all of these analyses that you have done as a business student and as a person? Yes.
I think, as we mentioned during the presentation as well, I think it's very important for every country, whether you're going to another country or you're receiving another country. I think everybody needs to work on a certain degree of flexibility, because differences may always exist. And maybe that thing that they didn't learn about me, I can learn about them, and we can also meet in the middle. I think nobody can expect different culture, a different person from a different culture to just bend themselves over in order to satisfy my own culture and my own beliefs. So I think, again, that everybody should participate, investigate, learn, respect, in order to find a place in the middle where everybody can get along together.
Okay. And you?
I think when I searching information, I realized about its close country has very similar culture, like China, Korea, Japan is very similar, and also other side, the European countries, very similar aspects in their culture. And then when you're doing the business, we have to consider about their culture, and we have to open mind to accept their culture, I think.
I found it's when you're gonna make a business with another country, even in our assignment, we have different cultures here. It's like a making business. It's just don't have money involved. But it's the same. And one thing that I learned with my research is we need to understand what the other believes, and we need to try to be the most respectful we can. I think it's the best point of negotiation, of homework, of assignment. The highest point is respect before you act. Listen before you act. For me, that's it.
Okay.
And also be prepared to cover each other's back in case someone drinks from the wrong bottle.
Okay. So, how was your group interaction interculturally?
It was pretty good. We were very respectful to each other, and I think we were all very open to learn about each other's cultures as well.
Yes.
I think it was enriching. Is that the right word?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
also it was very interesting for each country, because we don't know.
What was the source of conflict? I mean, if there was any issue, what would normally be the source of it? For example, if you said, okay, let's meet, or you have to submit by this time because we have to consolidate the report.
Yeah, timing may have been an issue. It's
Yeah.
in some cases more than others. But there was also in that case there was like there was respect. So even if someone couldn't make it at the time that we had all decided and that we had all been there, we all still had the flexibility and the patience. So I think we did well.
We are very good participation to make a presentation or reports. That we are very good divide in their parts.
So you did not have any unnecessary conflict or misunderstanding in the
Yes.
process.
We're gonna explain each other and yeah.
Yeah, so everybody did their part, and then we share the parts, we exchange feedback, maybe we can change this, maybe we can change that. We didn't really have any conflict.
Yeah, no.
Okay, because you were primed. No, I mean, this course is about intercultural relations. So before you got into this one, well, you were applying what you're learning now. Okay, I think anything else before you? Yeah, time is up now.